Hello, my name is Tabs and welcome to episode 77 of the Growth Podcast. I hope you're all doing well and that any deals that you have signed with the devil are working way better than whatever deal Arsenal signed because, our inability to do good deals is costing us now. As you can tell from what the news from Kai Havertz and Martinelli, but there we go. We'll get into that later. So to talk deals with the devil, with me today is Jamie. How are you? And how on earth was it that you only found out about Kai Havertz 4 hours ago?
Well, I knew he got injured, but I was just on it's a hamstring, and that was it. And I was in blissful ignorance, mate. I've been really enjoying a lack of football that I'm interested in for like the last week. It's been stunning. The boys are in Dubai, and my head's gone with them, and it's all good.
Very good, very good. Well, look, based on the WhatsApp group, you've been making up for lost time this afternoon. So, and I'm sure you've got plenty to say on the matter. And also we have another guest with us today. It's a pleasure to welcome back after too long. Is Kuziva? How are you doing? How are your hamstrings?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm well. Happy to be back. Of course, my hamstrings are still intact, but let's see what happens. On the weekend against West Ham. Let's see if I might tear my hamstring just like Kai. And also just in Jamie's defense, I found out about the actual torn hamstring a good 11 hours after. I just thought it was a normal hamstring. I was like, hamstring, a month, he's gone. And then after work, I was like, oh shit, it's pouring.
Who does a full on tear in like when you're in training in Dubai as well? Like what the.
And apparently it was set piece training, so who knows?
I mean, it just
Look, I like Jamie's blissful ignorance. I had no idea it was even set piece training. I wish I didn't know. So.
Yeah, well, you would have found out on Saturday. Oh, he's not in the team. Wonder why. Look, it looks like we're launching straight into the main topic of conversation, as well as Arsenal's injury crisis. We're going to discuss what to expect from the next set of games before the international break. I think we might touch on a bit of the MLS fallout, just to close, not to close that one off completely, no, but just to get Kuziva's view on that. And then we look forward to some actual football where we take on Jamie Vardy and Ruud van Nistelrooy's Leicester City at the weekend. So, So, how did you feel when you found out? What was your gut reaction when you heard the news about Kai? I mean, I know it was sort of like how should we say, a kick in the nuts. When I heard it, there was a scare. So, okay, it's a scare. That's fine. A scare means almost something might have happened. You might think he missed a game or not. And then along comes Ornbom yesterday saying he's out for the season, and I had to check whether it was actually a real account because I said, really? How can it go from a scare to he's out for the season? And it's it just feels like more shit on a shitty season that we have to deal with. He's not only our main centre forward, but his off the ball work, his all round play will be massively missed, and all of a sudden those Kai deniers, shall I call them, will suddenly realise how important he is to the team. And I don't know. I mean, looking on the socials, there's a lot of anger out there, a lot of finger pointing, a lot of frustration. Somebody must have done something wrong. Someone must be to blame, which is all very understandable and normal. But I don't know. Is it luck? Is it bad luck? Could we have mitigated this? Could we have mitigated the fact that we've lost 3 starters and a backup striker? I know. So look, I'll hand over to you guys. What was your initial gut reaction when you heard this, and why do you think this sort of shit happens? Jamie, start with you.
I mean, it is what it is, isn't it? It's a hamstring tear. I mean, hearing it's at the set piece training sounds like he's probably sprung up, but he's just gone and done it, hasn't he? And it is what it is. The bit that we can mitigate is ultimately having greater cover for him. That's the bit that we all know. We knew that Gabriel Jesus was going to be out long term before the window shut. We've had this conversation. We knew the risks. We understood some of the reasons as to why we anticipate some of the reasons as to why we haven't got more depth in the window. But ultimately, it has come to haunt us. That was our kind of worst fear, wasn't it? Was ultimately having the availability become a sudden issue rather than just competition at the position. And the fact that it's come at the same time as Gabriel Martinelli, who would have been one of the candidates to move up there or to free up Trossard to play there, is just shit upon shit upon shit, isn't it, really? So, yeah, it's frustrating, it's crap, it feels very, very deflating, but at the same time, there's a squad of players that have a job to do. That doesn't change. And relitigating the window, I think, is almost somewhat pointless, isn't it? We got there, we did it. It is what it is. It wasn't ideal at the time. It still isn't ideal, and the worst has come to the worst. So, hey, they're going to have some lessons learned, no doubt. And the hope is that we get through the next couple of months as well as we possibly can.
Look,
Yeah, look,
I agree with you.
Yeah, go on. I mean, how did you feel when it happened?
It is what it is. How I felt, the initial reaction was I laughed, I chuckled, and I was like, of course, this had to happen as soon as the window closed after Jesus got injured. So that was my initial reaction. And then 11 hours later, after I actually realized it was a torn hamstring, I laughed some more, and, as a fan, you just have to be hopeful and say, okay, look, we have 4 or 5 months. I know Sterling is past his best, and we'll speak about him a bit later. And Trossard is good, and it might not be world class or exceptional, but we've got good players who can hold up. Can they hold up until Martinelli comes back or Saka comes back? Let's see. But the reaction was laughter. That was the reaction. Pain laughter.
But where's the angst? Where's the anger? Come on. This is what people. This is what it looks like. The reaction is online. Look. To be honest, I'm with you. I don't take these things personally. I'm currently listening to one of these not self-help books, but whatever these books called, Let Them. So it's just like, let these things happen. If it's out of your control, there's no point getting angry about it. But I think you can still have a sense. Look, we're supporters, we're fans. We want the best for the club, and I think we can still look at this critically. So, can it be down to overuse and fatigue, lack of rotation options? You mentioned the transfer business that we did. Well, I say didn't do. Is it mismanagement of players? Is it the compound effect of squad injuries, which begat other squad injuries? Is it the schedule as a whole globally? Was getting through to the Carabao Cup semi-finals actually not a great idea? In terms of what was it that you think that so if we have to look at this as a learnings point of view, so rather than finger pointing and blaming and maybe turning this around, what is it that we have to look at and be better at in order to make sure this doesn't happen again? And I said, these are the 3 main muscular injuries. So Saka, so Martinelli, and so Havertz. Causation, correlation, coincidence. I'm a bit of all of the above and a whole load of bad luck. But but in terms of, you can't write in a plan of how we don't do this in the future. Right, let's make sure we don't have bad luck in the future, because Arteta said, well, we need to rely on Kai Havertz being basically a robot. He said that. We said that 2 days before he gets injured. He never gets injured. Don't ever say that, Arteta, again. So Jamie, if you're having that lessons learned, if you're having that retrospective, there we go, in your world in terms of product management, what would be the retrospective? What would we do better and different?
I mean, we could transition to playing walking football to truly mitigate the risk or something, but I don't know. I don't buy the overuse thing a great deal, to be honest. I think it gets talked about a lot. I think the calendar definitely is an issue, but there's a couple of bits there. We have to manage the risk of players' exposure, no doubt. But I mean, this is a training ground injury. A lot of injuries happen on the training ground. You've got athletes pushing their bodies to the limit. You've got athletes who want to play on a regular basis and don't want to miss a game, who are as competitive gets. It's quite enlightening just the other day, actually, just listening to Troy Deeney talking about the step up from the Championship to the Premier League and just saying one of the biggest things for it is actually the killer mentality, regardless of size, strength, skill, or anything like that. They want to go out and kill Ipswich. They don't want to go in for any easy games or anything. And that is the attitude every Premier League player has. They're killers. They want to keep playing. They don't want to go and rest up. They want to be involved in everything and a part of everything. And we know that that's the case with the likes of Saka. We know that players lie about how they actually feel at times as well and aren't truly honest about how they are. And we also know that most players are playing through seasons on various injuries of, small kind of injuries, the kind of things that we'd moan about if we were out, doing a run ourselves, but ultimately they will continue to run about on all the way through the season. It's very rare that players are 100% fit apart from literally the start of the season. So I kind of feel like people want to kind of litigate this stuff, and I'm just not sure there's that many answers. Like, A, you don't have the full picture, but B, I just think injuries happen. And if you look at our availability, a couple of seasons back when we had very similar usage stats for players, people not being rested, our availability was constantly used as a stick to beat us over the head with about the fact that we didn't have that many long-term injuries or key player injuries for about 18 months. And it just so happens, unfortunately, this season has not been the case. But maybe we have got higher demand on the players due to the Champions League and so on. But I don't know. I don't completely buy it. I think a lot of players have to play these minutes ultimately, and sometimes you just get a little bit of a run of bad luck on them.
So I was part of the camp that is speaking about overuse. I was very much on that camp. But Jamie just convinced me otherwise. Players have been playing a lot of games for a long time. That's true. When you actually look at the numbers and you deep dive on the numbers, you see that Messi did, 5,800 minutes during the season. He scored 90 goals. This is what they do. This is what the best players do. We can't ignore that the international fixture list has increased. Like, we can't ignore that. But I think on my side, it's luck. Luck plays a big part. I said this in our chat, was it yesterday, where Liverpool have signed one outfield player in the last 3 transfer windows. One. And they haven't lost anyone valuable in that period. That's pure luck. Like, that's the only thing you can put it at. We need to plan better when it comes to our squad. We knew Saka was going to get injured like this sooner or later. We didn't expect Kai to get injured like this, but we weren't surprised by him getting injured the way he did. So luck plays a big part. The international fixtures, I do feel like there is definitely some issues there. And then, it's just, let's plan better. Plan better.
No, I totally agree. Me and Tabs have talked before about the calendar being ridiculously big across everything, right? And needs trimming. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. The planning is for me, that's the learning. It's just maybe you do just completely cast aside you're not going to get the ideal man in January, and you do just get a body in. And I always worry about getting a body in because I worry about getting the body back out of the building because we've been there, we've done it. I mean, Park Chu-young was around the Arsenal for about 5 years, and he was just a body that came in, and then we couldn't find anyone to take the body back out. So I always worry about those things. But when you're in the position that we're in, and we weren't in that position when we signed the likes of Park Chu-young, maybe you just make the decision to do it, right? And you look at the risk.
Yeah, I mean, look, if we take the initial one, like the overuse and fatigue issues. So, yeah, the numbers don't. Look, he's up there. He's like one of the players that's played the most minutes. But actually, if you look at, the likes of Jude Bellingham, he's played 805 minutes since the start of 2025. So this year, whereas Nelly is 761, Kai 753. And if you look at the season as a whole, Bellingham's right there at the top, and he's playing week in, week out, playing internationally and stuff. And Salah's the same. There's always a comparison. He's doing this, doing the same as well. So in terms of, there are so many examples, of players playing the same amount of minutes and so on. But then for me, it's the intensity of those minutes. So, Salah does do a lot of sprints, but in between that, he's not doing much else. Bellingham plays in La Liga, which I would say is an easier league to play in, and you don't get stressed as much. Real Madrid don't get stressed as much. And the fact that also Arsenal have been playing stressful football all season. I would suggest it's not been. There's only few and far between of those comfortable 5-1 wins against City and the like. It's most of the time you're in a game, because you can see he's not able to take players off until 70, 80 minutes when you want to. He's not had to do that. So it's a tough one, because, like you said, the best players, and Arteta said this, the best players have to be used to playing 2-3 times a week, 70 games a year. I think if we were having a better season where we were able to rotate more and we had maybe more options, I think that's weird. So I'm not so much on the overuse. Everyone's saying, like, we ran Saka into the ground. We've run Havertz into the ground. He was like collapsing after Wolves. Did we run Martinelli into the ground? Would 100 minutes here or there really make that much of a difference to the injury? So I think it would be nice to give these people fresh. My more complaint is more about freshness, as in when it comes to winning time in the season, come April, come May, when you need these guys firing, that's where rotation and taking players off for me is key, and having players ready to go, because that's killed us the last couple of seasons. We've just tapered off at the wrong time, or just not had that extra something to go to when it comes to the big moments. I don't know how much it has to do with injuries. I think the injuries are luck. And I read a tweet, and it's like, we've got highly trained coaching and medical staff who are all over the numbers. Do you think they're going to be putting them in danger during training? Even in matches, there is that thing where you've got to balance what the stats say versus what the players say, and maybe that's a bit of mismanagement, and Arteta needs to be stronger, or they need to be stronger. And this is where they learn to say, no, I don't give a shit, you're not playing, because we've done it with Ben White, and look what happened to him now. Saka may be one of those. So I think there's something there. But if we come to the point around options and bodies, the reason why we aren't rotating as much, the reason we aren't taking them off, is because we don't have those quality caliber alternatives that will make a difference. And this comes down to, I would say, the summer, less so January, because I don't think anything we would do in January would make a difference. So so Jamie, would you? A lot of people are saying this stems back to January and lack of activity beyond potentially Sesko.
I mean, it does, but I mean, clearly there were a couple of other moves, and they were exploring options and whatever. But yeah, I mean, as I say, we've been there, we talked about it. I think they were looking for somebody who was going to augment the team long term and not be stuck with somebody who was a short term acquisition. And I don't see any two ways about it. And I can understand where they would be reticent, as I say. I mean, the one thing I will say, just as a final point on the exposure to the number of games, is that there's always going to be a correlation in the number of minutes you play and the number of injuries that you pick up in game, because literally you've got greater exposure. It's as simple as that. If you're on the pitch for a longer period of time, you have a greater chance of picking up an injury on the pitch, because that's how everything works. So, funny enough, if I spend all day crossing the road, I've got a much better chance of being run over as well. The two of them aren't necessarily correlating, and they certainly are for some injuries, but others they aren't. And a hamstring tear in particular is quite an interesting one, because generally, unlike a hamstring strain, that tends to be from sudden movements, right? And explosive movements. I don't know well enough whether wear and tear has a huge impact on it, but my understanding was that it tends not to. It is just essentially it pops, it goes, that's you. But yeah, I'd like to see more in general around the world on just how much of a benefit it is resting up players. But I think the key thing is there's a risk there that we just have to manage. And yeah, the whole thing comes down to me just to say, in January, I wonder if there just was a deal out there that we should have done, because it has left us short, 100%. And in fact, we knew, when did Gabriel get injured? 2 weeks before the window shut?
Yeah, 12th of Jan.
That is a long time, and you can send Neto away. Whether we're able to get any other player in on loan, I don't know. But that is the wincing bit. It's the bit that says, if we'd have got something done then, it's just exacerbated what we already felt was a missed opportunity of a window, and even a window before it.
Yeah,
that's the issue for me.
Yeah, a window before it, because what the window before it, we got Sterling on deadline day, right? That means that we weren't planning on getting anyone, or we tried but not tried hard enough. Um, Tab, just going back to what you said earlier, you guys, or you brought up a point around intensity, and you could argue that that is, you know, that could be a reason why people could get injured, right? Because Klopp, he had two instances where his BBB team and Liverpool team just couldn't do anything anymore because they got Gengen press fatigue, and they just simply could not play and stay fit. So I do feel like the way we play, to an extent, does also play a part in this situation. Doesn't change the fact that we need to plan better. There need to be numbers. Um, it doesn't change that fact.
Do you think we could have done anything in January that would have made a difference?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not gonna just go into it the way that I'd like to, simply because it quite literally is what it is. It is what it is. Watkins would have. I wasn't against Watkins at all. He was 65 million odd. I wasn't against that at all. But we are now. The window's closed. Now we need to look forward to Sammy Mockbell and David Ornstein speaking about Arsenal's got a lot of money this summer to spend on strikers. Let's see what they do.
We'll come to the summer in a minute. I mean, yeah, I think it does to a certain extent. Well, there is that argument about January, but if you look about what we went into the season with, so we went with Jesus, who was fit, Havertz, Saka, Martinelli, Trossard, and Sterling. So we had 6 fully fit players, and you think, okay, we've got a first 3, and we've got some backups. We were all maybe hopeful of Sterling. Hey, this is his last hurrah. We didn't know he was going to turn into Willian. We were hoping he was going to be prime 2019. So, but we knew it wasn't optimal, but it was. The whole squad was good enough to win the league, especially given the way the league's turned out. So it's a bit of a arguing. Oh, we didn't do enough business then. Why didn't we buy a backup for Saka? There is no backup for Saka. You can't buy a backup for Saka because no player that's good enough to be a backup for Saka is going to go and sit on the Arsenal bench or play Carabao Cup minutes or just be a 20 minutes a game person. So the idea of a backup for Saka, it doesn't exist. The backup for Saka is someone like Waneri, someone like Sterling, someone like Reece. So and we don't have the money and the wages to pay like City, where they can have £1 million Grealish, and then they buy Savinho, or then they buy Doku, and then they buy whoever. But then look what's happened to Grealish. They pay 100 million for him, and he's now washed up, and he's still still young. So I think this is a bit of like hindsight, and all these things have happened, so therefore it must have been the summer that cost us. I think we could have improved. I'm not saying we couldn't have improved, but what we had, I think was, and I think a lot of people thought was not brilliant, but still good enough. And the way this season's panned out, and in terms of what we could have done in January, I don't think anyone would have made a difference to what's happening now. So everything that's done in January is more about the consequences of what's happened, not to protect it. Nothing that we would have done in January would have saved Nelly, saved Havertz. It would have been for the shit scenario that we're in. And then the thing is, you got to ask, well, who's going to come in and want to be that bit part player? People talk about Tell, but he wouldn't come to us because he wanted guaranteed minutes. He's cost 10 million to loan, and he'll play every week. For us, I think the most you would have got if Havertz and Martinelli, were fit in January, they would have got like 140 minutes. In the next few games, it would have been 10 minutes here, 20 minutes there. So getting a body that the board took a risk, saying like, okay, we've got 5 games, maybe 7 until Saka's back, and then the only thing that we're missing at the front line is Jesus. So you think 7 games, I think we can manage that. And I think you, on the balance of things, that's maybe a risk worth taking, or you can understand the risk. The only reason it looks crap now is because we all know this is Arsenal, this is our season. Of course, someone's going to be of course, people are going to get injured. So, they don't work. They don't work like that. They're not doomsday scenario. They're not catastrophizers like fans are. So, sorry, go on.
Just a quick point. Sorry for interrupting you. You said Jesus was fit, but we all felt that yes, he's fit, but we also know he's injury prone, right? So as much as Jesus is fit, it's like having Tomiyasu fit. It's one of those situations. We should have done better in the summer. Like we, as much as we had Kai and all these guys, we should have done better in the summer, and that's just how it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, but I think we're sort of going through. I'm just saying is that yes, I agree. I think we could have done better, could have done something, but what we were left with was still good enough for what this season was going to offer. So, it's a risk that they took, and I think I can understand the risk, but it's backfired massively, and I think there'll be lots of learnings, which isn't going to help now. But Arteta says with these things, there's opportunities. Look what's happened to Saka. Look what we got in Nwaneri. If we say, okay, this season, write off, but hey, Nwaneri becomes Ballon d'Or material, prime Yamin Lamal next season, and we go and take the league by storm. We may take it. You know, maybe shit now, but we may take that, because otherwise, if Saka doesn't get injured, we don't have Nwaneri now. I know what I'd rather have, but you try and look on the good side of things. So if we look at what next, so look, as you said, it is what it is. People don't like it. People have got an emotional reaction to this. Football's emotional, so they want to blame someone, and it's far easier to point the finger and say it's your fault, it's his fault, it's that particular thing, rather than to sit back and blame luck, reasoned response, and all the rest of it, which is not easy. But as you said, it is what it is. But so what next? So they're back from Dubai, which was meant to be a bit of R&R, a bit of fun, bit of relaxation, and unfortunately the nightmare scenario has happened, and we've got 5 games now and 2 Champions League games before the next international break. So we play Leicester away, West Ham at home, Forest away, Man United away, Chelsea at home, and then 2 round of 16 games. What are you sort of expecting? What are you hoping for? You know, this is, I think, a comment where a lot of people are making in the chat. Is the pressure off? Can we sort of enjoy this in a sick sort of way? Jamie?
I don't know. I mean, I never feel too much of the pressure in between games anyway. It's only at the games themselves that I kind of feel any kind of pressure, to be honest. And yeah, I mean, for me, it's just that the situation is what it is. It's crap. You deal with it, you watch the side, you critique individual performances, and you give some allowances based on what you know. It's a really boring answer, because, to be frank, it just doesn't change a great deal. It makes my overall outlook on the season is far less positive in favour of Arsenal being able to win a trophy, because our personnel is being savaged. But that's it. It's more of a rational response for me of going, yeah, there's less chance of this now, and there's dismay and disheart at that. But you know what? When you go game to game, the team has still got to go out and do exactly the same job. So,
but is your reaction to that, as in, so your expectations are low? So maybe you can sort of, instead of going into a game, your expectations are different. So I'm talking in general. A lot of fans are like, there's a lot more. There's going to be less angst during games because of I know, is every game now a free hit?
Not at all. We're still in a position where we're 7 points off Liverpool. We've still got to play them. And they've still got to play a couple of tough games, and we're still in the Champions League. And there are, I still feel our performances put us third in that league competition. And we still have a fantastic defence. We still have a fantastic midfield. We're struggling up top, and what we've got to see as a team, and maybe we have to change a little bit as well. Maybe we need to change the way that we play, and it's a job for Arteta to do, and it's going to be interesting too, because it's going to be interesting to see whether he adapts, whether he changes, whether who moves into what position. Who knows? Maybe somebody's galvanised. Maybe Kai Edwards comes in and is phenomenal. I'm not expecting it from what I've seen. He's exactly where he was when he was 16, still now at the age of 21 is the problem for him, I think. I'm not a massive fan of Butler Edgy either, but we'll see. Maybe those guys can have an impact. You never know. Some guys come out. I mean, Harry Kane's a fantastic example, actually, of a player like this. Christ, you'd love it if they were that good, but I'm not expecting that. But Harry Kane's a great example of a guy who was decent for Tottenham and scored enough goals, but wasn't really phenomenal. A couple of loan spells that looked okay, but not amazing. And then we got an opportunity, initially he looked a little bit of a donkey in a couple of games, and then he just exploded. So you never know. Some of those boys might do really well. Somebody might just have a purple patch in the way that Eddie did for a little period of time. And similarly as well, one of the guys that, Arteta has talked about Wanyeri playing at 9 before. And he talked about that before Jesus' injury, before Kai's injury. So who knows? Maybe he goes into false 9 and it turns out we've got the most wonderful, diminutive little false 9, around as well. So there are options, and it'll be interesting to see how he goes about it. I think, if anything, there is an extra tension around those games, but there is also extra opportunity for some players, and it's going to be fascinating to see how that goes. It might be in a month's time we look back and we go, we're out of the Champions League, and we're now fucking 12 points behind Liverpool. Who knows? I'm hoping that's not the case. Really
no. I think we all are. I mean, go on, Kuziva. Look, after last night's result, is it back on?
Yeah, I mean,
how are you going to enjoy the coming months?
The thing about being a fan of sport in general, sport fandom is inherently irrational. What we do is ridiculous. The money we spend, like what we do going to games, it's ridiculous. So part of that irrational feeling and experience is having hope. I'll continue having hope, as long as mathematically possible. There's going to be a time, obviously, when we're like, it's done. But I'll watch the games as they come and hope that something happens. And as Jamie said, I'm in the same place as him. There's no stress between match and match. Literally, like, we had no idea that Kai had torn his hamstring. So, look, let's see what happens. Looking at the next 5 games, just going back to what you initially asked, it's going to be tough going to Forest, obviously. Chelsea's a wild card. United at home is always weird, but we could do something here, especially because Liverpool's playing Villa. It was also a bit random. City, Newcastle. Let's be sport fans and let's be irrationally hopeful and see what happens.
I mean, I think last night's result helped. Had it been 9 points, it would have been a tough ask, and I'd be asking the question: at what point do we prioritise the Champions League? At what point do we may not get the chance? We may not get the chance to choose. It may happen to us, but it might have reached a point where actually, do we put all our eggs in the Champions League basket and not we give up on winning the league? But last night, Tarkowski's equaliser and all that happened afterwards. It's sort of like, I don't know. I feel just someone's trying to, bleed us dry. It's like keeping us barely alive, and we're dying a very slow death. So can someone just put the knife in and turn it, and then just like we can just get it over and done with, so we know what we're dealing with. But it's like, it's just like we're just being tortured. So I mean, look, for me, not written the season off, but as I said, expectations are nowhere. I think the primary objective is not to fall out of the top 4, top 5, which given we've still a very good team. We've still got a great defense and a great midfield. So I still I don't think we're going to fall out of that. But that is the primary objective. I would suggest. Go on, Jamie.
So, I mean, I love to hark back to stuff. And by the way, just before I do, Kuziva, that was beautifully put as well, by the way. You're a sports fan, you're always going to have hope. And that's like, I prefer that version as well. But, I love to hark back to crap. And 97, 98,
Christopher Ray.
We lost Ian Wright and Dennis Bergkamp. We ended up with Christopher Ray playing up front. Who
love him.
He was one step up from Ali Dyer as the second worst Liberian to play in the Premier League. And
until what's a purple patch?
He managed to bundle in he scored one good goal and one not so good one.
The good one was against Bolton, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. The good one was against Bolton. He scored 2 goals. Nicholas Anelka came through as a fresh out of the reserves 17-year-old as well. And we continued on despite the fact that with you'd have thought Ian Wright, who'd been our top goal scorer for how many years running at that point? I think 6 years, and Dennis Bergkamp were both injured. You would, if we had that today, we're going, well, that's it, title's over, isn't it? And at that time, we didn't have backup behind them. I mean, the other one was Louis Boamorto, who at the time was like 19 years of age. Like, we did not have depth and backup for those players in a front two as well. So you lose those two of them, and you've got to put both of the children in. One of which is one of the worst footballers I've ever seen play for the Arsenal. So, yeah, I'm just saying, like, there is always the potential that on the other end, we went on a really great run. We had goals coming from other areas of the pitch, and a lot of top players stood up and were really counted that season. And we went on and won the double, and that was Wenger's first title, like we're chasing. That wasn't like when we got injuries in later seasons and we had experienced campaigners to see it through. These were fairly raw, a lot of the guys that we were actually looking to rely on at that point. A lot of guys who'd arrived that summer or the summer previous, and only the back four were the settled part of the squad, really. So there were parallels there, I think, in some regards. We've got a great back four. We've got a great midfield. We've lost what's up front a little bit, but opportunity. And if somebody takes the opportunity, then, again, you're not necessarily going to get a Nicolas Anelka, but who knows? Who knows?
No, I know. I like that. And that's why I'll be able to sort of watch this in a different way, in that interesting way, as in, okay, how are we going to deal with this? Sometimes, it's nice to watch football in a different way. So again, with the pressure off to a certain extent, obviously I want us to win, but expectation low, and you can sort of look at it a bit differently. How are we dealing with this issue, and how are we dealing with these problems, and who's going to step up? And I think it'll be quite fun to watch, until we let in a goal and lose our first game, and then everyone loses their shit. So, not me, but you know what it's like. But it's looking forward to it. As I said, what else can you do? Isn't it? I never take it personally. I never get that angry about this stuff. There's a shit happens. You wish it was different, and then let's just be positive and support and support the team. But just looking bigger picture, longer term, with regards what these injuries mean, because you get hamstring operations. Will it impact next season? So how good and how frequent and how much can we push Kai and Saka next year? And then looking at the summer, just quickly now, it's going to be massive. And the reason looking at the summer, there were rumours out this week, Saliba, Real Madrid have started their, I don't know whether 1 year, 2 year process to get the top world-class players out on a free transfer. What do you think the knock-on effect will be in terms of the summer, in terms of, what we need to do, but also all the contract renewals? We've got Saka, Saliba, Gabriel, Martinelli, and Jesus all coming to the final 2 years. Anyone worried?
I mean, it is worrying. It is worrying. 100%. I'm worried about the amount of work we need to put in the summer with no real director of football, except this guy who's been lauded for doing nothing in January. I'm worried about the players now considering, should I stick around?
That could be argued so much, that statement, but I won't. I'm going to let that one slide. I'm only saying that because Jamie's face was also saying what I was thinking, but let's let that one slide.
We'll leave it.
But I do think Edu leaving does not help. And there's a point I'll make about Liverpool in a minute, but I do think it didn't help in maybe some of our business. But anyway, sorry, carry on.
So it is a worry. And I said this in the group, in our Grove group, to those who don't know, about like 3 weeks ago. I'm not against Chelsea's 8-year contracts for superstars. I'm actually not against, because you're not going to be stressed every 3 years. These guys sign 5-year, 6-year contracts. It doesn't mean that you fine for 5. It means that you fine for 2 years, 3 years, right? And then you have to start the process again. So that is a worry. I'm hopeful that Arteta and the cult that he's developed within that training camp will keep the players around. I am hopeful, and I'm hopeful that these guys want to win together. I do feel like people are trying to draw comparisons to the old Arsenal, when RVP and all these other guys lived. I feel like it's to me it's different. So I'm worried about the summer, but I'm hopeful that we'll sign up our players who need extensions. I guess the only issue is we need a lot of reinforcements. We need forwards. We need midfielders with Jorginho and Partey going. Yeah, I'm glad that I don't do that job. Essentially, I don't want to do that.
Jamie, do you have any concerns about Saliba? What do we do do we take 120 million in the summer? Do we wait another year and then that suddenly becomes 40, 50 million? Or do you wait 2 years and say, thank you very much for your time, go and enjoy Madrid? Imagine if he's not re-signing and he's not showing signs of re-signing.
I mean, it's literally you need to manage that risk. It's about as simple as that. It's all just risk management, effectively, with contracts.
Yeah.
That's it, And the one thing I will say about Chelsea's contracts is the majority of players in the eight-year deals are not on £300,000 a week, which is
that's true.
the valuation that we're looking at now. Yeah. Everybody talks about Mudryk. Mudryk's contract is about 80, is my understanding. Yeah. And the majority of the guys they've got on the long-term deals, it's because they're actually trying to nail down the value for that period of time. Rather than and get them on the lower wages effectively. So that I think is a key thing, is that we haven't been in that position with these extensions for these guys. We've been rewarding players for becoming top players and giving them market value. Realistically, Saliba's next deal is going to be in excess of 300k. I think he's on two something at the moment. They've got a few players that they need to try and sort out the long-term future of. And ultimately, if any of them don't want to be a part of the Arsenal, then you're probably expecting at least one out of the door this summer. And if you've got big money on the table from a club and you're not convinced you're going to be able to keep them around and they're making noises within the club and to the club that's after them, they're going to have to go. It's about as simple as that. You know, that is ultimately the position that you're in. I'd love him to sign a new deal, but I don't really think he's irreplaceable, to be honest. No. I don't think anybody is. And I think, you can go out and get a guy that's, a big part of what our centre-halves do is, of course, their individual ability, but a big part of it is also the team's discipline as well and the way that we're set up. Can you get somebody quite as good as William Saliba? It's a hard ask. He's in terms of raw attributes, they're phenomenal, but there are other centre-halves that have been as productive for their clubs. So you need to just go out and try and find another, don't you? And that's the job of recruitment. That's a job of a football club. What else are they supposed to do?
No, indeed.
I would keep renewing everybody forever and ever and ever, And, that's the job that the new guy's going to have to do. I wonder if there's going to be a new sporting director. I think from everything we understand about, the Jason fella, he's more of a kind of a negotiator and kind of doing the deal more necessarily than he is the identification of players and having the network in place already. So if we get somebody else in, great. I get a little bit concerned when people talk about Monkey. He's not the man for me. But, we'll see. And the main thing, I think, is just that we identify targets that are going to help with the vision that Arteta has for the team in the short term, and that have, the market value to be that we're flexible enough in the long term as well. That's a hell of a job to do.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things. I do think the sporting director thing could potentially be an issue, and I think that needs to be resolved. Well, now that there's no one to transfer or buy, I think that it needs to be resolved. And it is an odd one. Is this January in terms of, how he will be seen within the club? Because if you ignore the injuries, I know we can't, but they might think he did a brilliant job by not backing down and by making the right decision. So they might have actually really liked the decision he's made. He said, my case is, pros and cons. My case is this: we're not going to buy anyone, and we've joint decision, but I've led it. So they might actually think it's a positive thing, the decision that we didn't just collapse and just buy anyone, and spend a load of money, and then we're left with something that we have to deal with. So that'd be interesting. But apparently the reason Liverpool are in the trouble they are this year with Virgil van Dijk, Salah and Trent Alexander-Arnold is because I think they also had changes at the exec level, which took their eye off the ball and on renewing contracts. So fair enough, they changed their midfield, but they didn't. They weren't in a position, or they put that off, or it didn't happen. So again, this is why I think it's a really important issue that we do get this resolved, so that we sort of right. We've got to do these deals. As I say, we've got Saka coming up with 2 years, Saliba, Gabriel, and Gabriel needs to be on more money anyway. The performance, he needs to be aligned anyway with everyone else. Martinelli, there's already rumours about a new contract. Jesus, not so worried about, to be honest. So I think it's really important. And as for Saliba, yeah, it's a tough one. Do you keep someone world class, but then have that, the atmosphere around an unsettled player, or not what's going on, or do you sort of like sell him, take the money and reinvest it? A toughie, 50-50 on that one. It all depends on how much we get for him, but yeah, we'd have to get a lot, 100 plus for him, and we have gone.
Just sell him. I mean, it's that simple.
Yeah.
If he wants out, and it's quite clear that a new deal is not going to be in the offing, what you cannot allow us to do at this stage, where we're not a complete team. It's a different situation if you've, I think potentially depending on where the club is and where the team is. Right, we need more players in the side at the moment. We absolutely do. You can't afford to let somebody with that market value walk for a massively reduced deal the next year. So especially when you've got three of them, you've probably got to pick your favourite a little bit, and do a little bit of a calculation as to who's the guy that we can get a deal done with in the next 2 years, and that's what it's going to come down to. And ultimately, those execs are going to have to assess that and go, who is it that we feel we just can't get a deal done for? They've got to get out the door now. And it's as simple as that. And maybe you taper it a little bit. You let one walk this season. You aim to get a deal done with the other two. Whichever one you don't get a deal done with by the next summer goes as well. And then maybe you hang on to one right the way to the end. But at least then you hopefully have recovered the majority of that market value and been able to reinvest it.
And Kuziva, where are you in terms of, okay, we pay William Saliba 350, okay, and he agrees to stay. Where are you in terms of the knock-on effect that has on, Bukayo Saka goes, hang on, he's on that, I'm not. And then all of a sudden, then Odegaard says that, and then maybe Declan Rice says that. So is there also a limit to how much we offer to keep him?
I mean, that's tough. Just speaking as working professionals, the best working professionals get paid the most. If we're not going to pay our best players, or some of the best players in the world, what they feel like they deserve, it's going to be a problem. They could leave. I do get why you'd ask that question. It is going to be a knock-on effect, but if we want to be the best club in the world, we unfortunately are going to have to pay some of the highest wages in the world. That's just how it is.
No, makes sense. And that's just the renewals. I think, as you said, we need 2, possibly 3 forwards, 1 or 2 midfielders as well. And Arsenal don't do big summers. So, sorry, I don't want to be all doom and gloom, but it is just interesting.
Was the Rice summer not a big summer?
That was a big summer.
That was a big summer.
How many did we bring in? We need to potentially offload 2 or 3, or okay, some of them might be just end of contract, so that's easy. But bringing in 4 or 5 people of certain standard, the money that's involved, and all the contract renewals, luckily there's no Euros, there's no international tournament. I
think they should be sounding out the contract renewals before the end of the season, ultimately.
And you should hope.
And at the very least, sounding out what the moving parts of them are as well, in terms of. So if you talk about there are conditions, there are things that are going to affect whether a player is likely or not likely. Where we finish in the league, all that kind of stuff. Then you should have that buttoned down and a really good. You should have done your exploration basically already. And I'd kind of be surprised if they aren't seriously well through that as it stands at the moment. But yeah, I mean, I think we have it in us to do it. The 2023 window, you had Rice, you had Havertz, you had Timber, you had Raya.
Fair enough.
That is a big summer.
Yeah. No, fair enough.
I don't believe everybody that says we need bloody 7-8 players in or something like that. I think that's ridiculous. Some players are going to move around and explore different roles. The same as Thomas Partey's played at right back, in the same way that Timber's played in a few positions and so on. That stuff's what it is. Dedicated players wise, we need probably at least 4 that I think that are kind of desperately needed. But that's the job. That's the job that these execs are getting paid for.
Yeah.
It's about as simple as that. They need to go out, get those players lined up, and bring them in. I don't have any concerns budget wise. I mean, again, that summer we committed a spend of about 200 million on those 4 players. We're probably going to need to do the same, but we're doing it off the back of a completely different couple of years in terms of revenues and in terms of where we are with FFP, because we did that summer off the back of getting rid of a whole bunch of players for free over the course of about 3 years, since Arteta took over, basically, and in trying to just get rid of the Aubameyangs and Lacazettes, etc., off the back of the COVID time where we had reduced revenues. And off the back of going and spending money for a couple of seasons that were large net outlays. We're not in that position now. We've actually had, we've had Champions League revenues, which we didn't have back then as well. So we've had Champions League revenues,
revenues,
both TV and attendances. We've got, we've got money coming out of our ears right now. I have no concerns that FFP is going to be an issue in any way, shape, or form. So ultimately, we should be able to commit to a fairly sizable, 2 to 250 or whatever to go out and sign players. I'm sure we should, because we should be in a really good position now. We've been waiting for this time, and now it's just a question more so than anything. They're bloody complex deals. But again, just like the contract renewals, these deals don't need to happen in the summer. These deals need to start happening now.
This is where the
Declan Rice. We knew Declan Rice.
And this is where that sporting director role is a key thing is a key part of this, and that we need to get sorted ASAP, because I said we could end up in a Liverpool situation. Basically, what I've taken from the last few minutes, Jamie, is that we're selling Saliba. And we're going to get a load of deals done. So you've heard it here first, folks.
There is one of the things that helps grease the wheels of deals this summer as well, actually, which is there's no Euros or World Cup.
Yeah.
It genuinely was a problem last season, as it is so many seasons, that whenever you've got a World Cup or Euro year, players don't move until after them. It condenses the window, and it also increases competition for some of the targets. So that is another point as well that I will just say. We haven't got that this year, so hopefully you should be, players work out where they are and what's going to happen to them in the window earlier, before the window starts, and you just start getting the deals done.
Okay, I'm so looking forward to next season. Come on, let's bring it. Okay, so that's on the team. I just wanted to, Kuziva, now that we've got you on the pod, I wanted to just get some of your thoughts on just pivoting a bit to MLS and the sort of like the fallout from that celebration, and then Jamie and I had a really good conversation about the media and the gutter press and the treatment around it. And then all of a sudden, an article came out. I think it was on Sunday or Monday from Graham Souness in that rag, telling him to wind his neck in. And I mean, ramblings of an old white man, if you ask me. It's but yeah, I would just want to. Get your thoughts on that, and how you felt about how that was all dealt with, and then I've got a little bit of a rant afterwards.
So guys, Tabs got me onto the call because I'm black, and you wanted me to weigh in on this topic. No, I'm playing. I'm playing. I mean,
hang on a minute, you're black?
I thought it was my screen was just dirty.
I mean, we speak about this at least once a year. It's really sad that it seems like there's clear bias. They've literally been master's PhD thesis on the media in the UK and the racial bias against young professionals, and the treatment between or compared to their white counterparts. And you can't ignore that. And as someone from South Africa who moved here 4 years ago, who's now working for the first time ever in a predominantly white environment, I can understand and see it. It's not acceptable, but it's not our world. Yes, these guys are born here. They are second, third, fourth generation, but it will never be our world because it's not our country. So it's really sad, and honestly, when you compare him to other players who do these things, like Vardy is quite literally one of the best shithouses in the world. You know, people love that. What MLS did, he did a celebration that players do all the time against their rivals, and they shut him down like, you know, it doesn't make sense. Besides that, it seems like it's racial bias. Yeah, I mean, that's just how it is, man. You know, you sometimes just have to be like, oh, here we go again, and then you go again.
It's shit to hear, and it's shit to have to experience it. And look, if we take last night, so I don't know how much everyone saw of the aftermath of the equaliser, you know, at the end of the game, like Curtis Jones, you know, went up to pull Decore away from celebrating, in front of the Liverpool fans, but he can support where the fuck he likes at Goodson Park, for Christ's sake, you know. But, you know, will Curtis Jones be told to think about the behaviour? You know, he's a young player. Will Decore be, you know, being told to wind his neck in and stuff like that? It's just, it's just ridiculous, you know. And you know, and then you know, sort of moving on a bit, and then talking about how Arsenal players are sort of treated a bit differently, or there's a bit of an Arsenal agenda. You know, where's all the think pieces and TalkSport commentary and social media rants about Slot and his behaviour and how he needs to keep his emotions in check? You know, he's had 3 yellow cards, a touchline ban, and now a 2-game ban from a red. If that was Arteta, could you imagine if that was Arteta? The fucking internet would explode. It would be just like, poof, you know, and like the silence from Carragher and Neville is like deafening. So, you know, I coming back to the original point, I think there is that bias element to it, the implicit, explicit, you know, whatever. But you know, you add the Arsenal factor, and it's sort of multiplied exponentially to how people react to these things. And like even Oliver's getting death threats from Liverpool fans. You know, look what happened after we got warned after the sending off, and you know, you're from the Northwest. Oh, it's okay. So yeah, it just don't know. It just winds me up a bit. I know you can try to. It's the way it is, but does it have to be that way? And then, as I said, people always say, "Oh, Arsenal fans moaning again," but I always think there's sort of just cause for it.
I do find the online visible part of our fan base absolutely intolerable most of the time, mind you.
No, there is an element of that, but
and also, I mean, in terms of how we're perceived in the wider environment, it is unreal when you talk to people that are not Arsenal fans about how many of them bang on about AFTV as being like really influential in the way they view the Arsenal. It's super influential. I mean, like pretty much everyone I know is like Villa fan. You know, whoever will always reference AFTV and that being there, and that being how
that's very annoying to hear.
Arsenal fans and their thoughts and how we and you know, and then those that don't see it that way, those that are more sort of London club centric and West Ham fans and Tottenham fans and stuff like that, and that are Londoners, largely just see us as, you know, the lattice swillers and stuff, shit like that as well. I could also sort of understand as well. So yeah, like it is what it is, but I kind of, I'm just going to be slightly controversial.
No, go for it.
I'm sort of up for the bias against us as a fan base and a club at times. I sort of totally understand it. I just don't mind it. And this is like, you know, who cares to a certain extent, you know?
Yeah.
And Tony, you know, it's that whole story that Ian Wright got told by David Rocastle when he came in, when David Rocastle said everybody fucking hates us and we love it. And TA said the same with Patrick Vieira. George Graham used to embrace it, and I kind of like it. It's been a big part of the history of the Arsenal. Is like nobody ever likes us. You know,
we don't care.
You know, especially because, you know, most of football revolves in England, really. The power in English football has always been in the north. It has always been in the north, specifically the northwest. But that is where, you know, there is barely any trophies when you actually look at the history of England won by teams from south of Birmingham, really. That's, you know, Birmingham upwards, and primarily it's the northwest. And ultimately, one of the reasons that we tend to get hated is we're the one most successful team from London. We're about the only one who ever bloody wins anything until Chelsea came along, you know. And Chelsea fans would
They don't count.
very similar way. I mean, I would say Chelsea fans have got the whole, being horrible racist mugs all over them as well. But regardless of that, and I do think that's a part of it too. I think there's a bit of a bias against London. I think there's a bit of a bias against what the club, how the club's perceived online. And it is what it is. Who cares,
Yeah, I just don't like. I have to pay for a Sky Sports subscription, and then we get the likes of Carry. We don't get a choice. If we want to watch football, I mean, I do. Unless we win, I turn off, and I don't want to hear it. But you can't turn off. It said it's the joy of watching something on Prime that there's a no commentary option. Yeah. If you could have that on Sky, it would be fantastic. The bad thing is we pay large amounts of money for these services, and so we don't get a choice other than to listen to some of these folks. So I hear what you're saying, and I try and get like that. It's just that if you do go online and see the thing, it's just like it's like the disingenuousness of it all, and the more the if he does it, it's fine, but if he doesn't do it, it's fine, and that I'd rather everyone just treated equally. But yeah, there is that point in taking pleasure, like Millwall fans have done in the past. We do it in terms of no one likes us and we don't care. I just haven't got to the don't care part of it yet.
They deserve it as well, frankly.
Yeah,
and this is why as well I don't really care that we are hate, because there's so many people I find really distasteful in football, like so many fan bases, not based on individuals. And like I know individuals that are fans of these clubs that are lovely. One of my best mates is a Chelsea fan, but as a fan base, I hate those bastards. I hate Chelsea. Everything about them. Like and that's people have that relationship with us too, and it just happens. A lot of them do, and I mean the hilarious thing on their overlap is when they do that fans forum thing. By far the most eloquent geezer on there, who is much better than Paul Bloody Scholes, who genuinely is a waste of air, is James McNicholas. By an absolute mile from the Arsenal, right?
And also Clive from Arse Vision was the Arsenal representative, and now he's not there anymore, from what I understand, because I think he was too good.
The Arsenal folks that have always been really, really good, really insightful, really articulate, and to be completely frank, like much, much better than any of the ex-pros. So.
I agree. I mean, talking of the Northwest and classless, Kuziva, did you see what Man City put up as a tifo in during the week?
I didn't, and we're speaking about this before the pod. Jamie found out that City lost, was it today? I found out they lost last thing yesterday. I was like, oh shit, City played Madrid and I missed this, so I didn't see it, and I feel bad because I should have prepared for this pod.
They put on a tifo of Rodri kissing the Ballon d'Or, and it's a massive one saying "Stop crying your heart out." It's like
wow. Quality Oasis reference as well. Like,
is that what it is? Is
that was an Oasis song?
Okay, that flew over my head. Okay, so I'm just trying to work out why that was, but and look, that backfired. Vinny Jr. got man of the match, and Bellingham ended up scoring the winning goal and mocking Haaland's celebration at the end. So it's sort of like, imagine that. Who sanctions that at the club? Who sanctions hey, let's go and rub Madrid's noses in it just before a Champions League game?
Like, you say you're not allowed to do that, Tab? So you say
I'm not saying. Is
that actually
no, I'm surprised. The fans can do what they want. I'm surprised the club sanctioned that. That's weird. That is. Can you imagine that happening at Arsenal? What do you think of Tottenham?
I would love that. So listen, I was chatting to a mate about this like 2-3 days ago. I'm one of those people who I'll shit house regardless of where my team is at. I don't care, because if I don't win the league, like, it means that I'm never going to shit house, right? So
of course.
I love this. I love that these guys said, you know what, this might backfire, but fuck it, let's chat shit. And they got banged, but let's chat shit anyways. So I'm a big fan of this. We need to do this.
I'm all for it with fans. I don't care. And actually, after Liverpool lost against Plymouth, they lost against Plymouth at the weekend. I was just checking that you knew that they lost to Plymouth at the weekend. I just put on Blue Sky and on Threads looks like Liverpool are fairly average without their best player. Hashtag Ply Live. Oh my god, the Liverpool fans losing their shit. And and the amount of fish emojis that I had to send, and it said, I'm only joking, and they were trying to justify the fact that, well, they had 7 internationals that actually started in their team. They were trying to justify this and justify that, and asking how Saka was, and I had such a fun Sunday evening before the Super Bowl.
You fishing for rage bait now as well?
This comes back. Someone
problem, mate.
No, someone claimed like, "Oh, you're just like AFTV." I said, "I'm just fucking."
That's what I was so sure.
He said, "I'm just like AFTV trying to drive traffic to the podcast." I said, "To be honest, my demographic is not insane Liverpool fans, so the only people responding to this are Liverpool fans. So it's not really driving traffic to the podcast.
It could be a good demographic, though. You never know.
It may be good, but it was funny. It was just funny, the reaction, and I didn't say anything that hard. I just said, "Oh, you're not as good." Basically, I was basically saying they're not as good without Salah. Well, no shit. Who wouldn't be as good without Salah in their team? And my God. So yeah, in terms of the banter, I'm here all for it. I give as good as I get and whatnot. But it's the mainstream media and the gutter press that I think they're the ones that get my goat a bit.
Quick one before we move on.
Cool.
Do you guys think that the Plymouth fans who went to that game hopeful? Because I do. As much as they knew that Liverpool is Liverpool, I believe the Plymouth fans, they were like, you know what?
You've got a fight. You've got a fighter's chance. That is the beauty of football. That it just takes the backs against the wall, goalkeeper having a worldie, everyone clears everything in line. You get that one penalty, you score it, and seeing that the team they put out, they will. It's happened. It happens all the time, and that's the beauty of football. And that's, sorry, Jamie, this is where rugby does fall down, that you just don't get these moments in. And I'm not here to critique rugby and all the rest of it. This is the beauty of football, where you do have these giant killing moments.
I'm sure that Kuziva would probably remember when South Africa were soundly beaten by Japan in the Rugby World Cup.
Okay, but there's 12 teams that play rugby.
That was probably one of the greatest shocks that ever occurred in rugby for a start. It's fine, Tabs. Just be completely ignorant of an entire sport and you just have no clue about
what only 12 teams
winning the Pro 12 the first time, when it was the first time in their history after, which was like Leicester winning the Premier League. Just you be ignorant. Don't you worry about it, son.
Are there any non-league teams that beat Premier League teams in rugby?
That is a difference, because the thing is, you've got an amateur game in rugby backing up. Even in Scotland, as soon as you're outside of 2 teams, there are amateurs.
I know.
Yes, you do. Portugal had a huge result of the last World Cup as well, where they beat a load of pros, and they were largely a bunch of waiters. So you do have these moments.
A bunch of waiters.
I'm very upset at the insinuation that rugby is in some way a closed shop. Which
we will talk.
Shop. There's nothing to do with lack of access in the game of rugby.
Amy,
I can hear an agenda here. I can hear an agenda.
He's reeling it in. Oh my God!
I might have some concerns over the way that you actually get into professional rugby in several nations, but that's a different thing.
I hear you, but yes, and I think Jamie agrees. Plymouth fans do have hope, because that is the beauty of football. Shit like that happens.
If you're a Plymouth fan and you don't have hope, what the fuck do you have?
Because you've got nothing else.
in all seriousness, and this is kind of the thing that I think we need to embrace more as fans of a club that has got a more established history, is that I sort of live my life a little bit like that anyway, and I suppose it probably helps that I've support a minnow and rugby with Glasgow and Scotland, and football with Scotland. If you don't have hope, if you just believe that you should go out and win everything, and you set expectations of, I can only have a good time if we're achieving X, Y, and Z, it's just crap, isn't it? So enjoy, have the bit of hope, and sometimes it is the hope that kills you. It is true. When you get too hopeful, when you really start to believe and it ends up crushing you, it is a thing. But that range of emotions is great, isn't it? And nobody actually got hurt as a result. And it's hard to have that range of emotions in your life that doesn't involve actual real hurt and other people close to you hurt and stuff like that. So it's nice to have it. Embrace it. Go for it.
No, I totally agree. So talking of hope, right. Fingers crossed. We got Leicester City at the weekend. What are you hoping for? What are you looking? Can we go into that game hopeful? Can we be Plymouth fans going into Liverpool? So what you? Go on. What are you looking forward to and not looking forward to as far as the game's concerned, Kuziva?
I'm looking forward to being Plymouth fans and being hopeful. Let's see what do. Look, we have a good enough squad. We genuinely have a good enough squad. Yes, we've lost Kai, we've lost Martinelli, we've lost Saka, but right now the squad is good enough, surely. So I'm expecting a win. I don't know how that win is going to be. I don't know how we're going to set ourselves up. I expect 4-3-3. I just feel like Sterling will come in easy peasy. Obviously, I'm sure these guys were trying to figure out a new way to play or a different way to play when they're in Dubai, but injuries wrecked our plans. But these guys are professionals. We got really talented players, Euro Cup winners. Um, I'm expecting our team to at least win by like 1-0. And I know it's not time to predict, but I'm expecting a 1-0 at least.
Jamie, what are you looking forward to, not looking forward to?
We're going to deploy a false nine, and the people of Leicester are going to be amazed at the concept of such continental offerings, and we're going to win 9-0.
Very good.
I mean, I'll take anything, to be honest. I'll take anything as a win. What am I not looking forward to? Jamie Vardy. Just if he could just not spoil things, that'd be lovely. It's the only thing that I worry about from even the slightest little bit on their end. So, that'll be me.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. With the not looking forward to again. Ruud van Nistelrooy there as well. So anything we can do to make his
that's a hell of a combination of like.
Totally forgot.
You've got a horse and a rat. That is a Chinese proverb, isn't it?
There must be a Aesop's fable in
Chinese
this.
proverb. I'm going to find it. There is.
I'm going to find it. It is.
There's, true. I'm looking forward to seeing how we deal with this, seeing what we do, and what sort of formation can we put out? What sort of team can we put out? I think the back four looks after itself. It's like, do we go 5-3-2, 5-4-1? 4-3-3 is the one formation I can't think that we do, because I don't think we can sustain that, because even if you go 4-3-3, then you have to be very radical with who if you have to make changes, who then fits in across the front three, because we've only got three forwards who are fit, so for me, I would do a 5-4-1, with Trossard up front, and then you've got the, MLS, Saliba, Gabriel, and Timber. Then then you'd have Odegaard, Rice, Partey, Merino, and Winery, and Trossard as the main man up front, and then you got at least Sterling on the bench if you need to change something or something like that, or a 4-4-1-1 where you have Odegaard behind Trossard or something like that. I think we need to do something different. I don't think we can shoehorn. I don't think we can do a 4-3-3 because we've got no pace as well. There's very little pace in that team, and so that's what I'd like to see, and maybe Benny Blanco's on the bench. Maybe he's going to be come back, so that also helps us as well. So any ideas in terms of formation or lineup, in terms of how you would want to play, Kuziva?
Yeah. So look, I think we could find a way through the 4-3-3 and just. We are quite dynamic in the way we set up ourselves sometimes. So it'll seem like a 4-3-3 when we're starting the game and we see the formations of the players. But then things switch up during the game, right? And one thing about football teams, especially on the highest level, and teams that are managed by Pep disciples, is that they try to prepare for every single scenario in the world. So I do understand your worries about, okay, cool, we play 4-4-3 and then we want to sub someone, and like, what do we do? These guys have definitely trained being 2-0 down with 10 men, because that's just what you need to do when you are training to be the best and the best. So I'm good at 4-3-3. I'd be so happy if I saw Benny Blanco on the bench. Merino up top is an interesting one. Look, this guy is really good in the air. I don't expect him to be, our target man, Fellaini, but hey, maybe he could be the false nine. Maybe we can play with two false nines. I'm actually quite intrigued to see what
is that a false 18?
False 18, yeah. False 18, no wings. Let's go. I'm intrigued. And just going back to, I think what you guys both touched on, I'm watching the game, and maybe this is where I'm at now, as someone who's taking care of their mental health and all that. I watch these games in hope that I'm going to see something new, something different, something exciting, or one player is going to do something really cool, even though we lose. So I'm excited in this case to see what Arteta has to do and how he figures out the best way forward for his team.
Very good. Jamie, any particular thoughts on the formation? Don't care, and just what will be, will be.
Less concerned with the formation, but as an update, turns out that the horse and the rat are the least compatible signs on the Chinese zodiac. So that would explain somewhat why Jamie Vardy and Ruud van Nistelrooy have not been sending Leicester City up the league together, and we have nothing to worry about whatsoever.
Yeah, well, since Van Nistelrooy's joined, I mean, look, Leicester are shit. Okay, let's not make no bones about it. They're third.
Somebody born in the year of the dog would have got on well with Jamie Vardy then, and that's an influential character at the club.
These are the sorts of insights people tune in for.
False nine, probably going to happen in it because that's all we've got. We haven't really got a striker, so who knows who that's going to be? Could be Sterling, could be Trossard, could be Wanyeri. I would probably like to see Wanyeri start at right wing because I think he's been playing so well there. I really enjoy him coming in from that position. He's developing both qualities that are similar to Bukayo Saka, but also that are of his own as well. He's got his own little spin on it. And for me, probably you maybe put Sterling up there as the guy that's not been in great form out wide. And it's sort of the lesser of all evils, maybe. You just see if you can work it out with him. I'm weirdly intrigued about Mikel Merino. I'm weirdly intrigued.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
I hate the idea. He picks up really good positions. He's quite physical. He
seems to be the most. He seems to me the most like to Havertz in a way. You'd think, I don't know. Maybe it's just his stature or something like that.
There's something about it that just doesn't absolutely offend me. I don't think he's going to have that kind of. I think the main thing is going to be that it's different to Havertz is the pace. Simple as that. Havertz is one of those guys who doesn't look pacey, but he bloody well is. And when you actually see him in a foot race, he does pretty well. And maybe against Leicester, you wouldn't have seen that pace a great deal anyway, because I would expect we're probably going to dominate the ball. At which point, swing it in onto the head of Merino. Why not?
Yeah. No, I agree. Well, look, let's see what happens. So, look, as I said, Leicester are third from bottom. 17 points minus 28 goal difference. Here's the funny stat. So in the last 10 games, they've only won one in the Premier League. Do you know who that was against?
Tell us, Sabs.
They're shit.
Yeah, they're shit. And it was at their shit grounds. So, yeah, unbelievable that they 2-2 against Brighton, lost 4-0 against Newcastle, lost 3-0 against Wolves, 3-1 Liverpool, 2-0 Man City, 2-1 Villa, 2-0 Palace, 2-0 Leicester, beat Tottenham 2-1 at the at the toilet bowl, lost 4-0 to Leicester. That is beautiful. That is beautiful. Look, so Van Nistelrooy is he's on 0.6 points per game, since he's joined, which so that the rat and the horse completely incompatible. But they gave us a bit of a scare at the Emirates back in September. We had to score 2 goals in added time to turn a 2-0 win into a 2-0 scoreline into a 4-2 victory.
Tabs, who hasn't given us a scare at the Emirates? That is
true.
Real question. But we move on though.
We true. So look, Vardy, Ndidi, they seem to be the main men. Buonanotte. The goalkeeper had a blinder against us, but he seems to be dovetailing with another goalkeeper at the moment. I can't remember his name. I did write it down here, so I don't know which.
He proper Brad Friedel does, didn't he? He just did that. Yeah, there was a couple of blind saves he made. Yeah,
unbelievable. Is Jakob Stolarczyk is now in goal, so they've been changing. I think. So Hermansen has been in goal in the last couple of games, but then before that, the other guy they lost unfortunately to Man United the other night. So look, they aren't very good. So we should be going there. We should be getting a win. Football's stupid, so you never know. But it'll be nice just to kick off this, at least end the shit week on a positive note. So it's like 12:30 on Saturday morning. So that's just going to be a shitty atmosphere, and it's just going to be very lackluster. So I don't expect it to really get started until the second half. So Kuziva, you said 1-0. Jamie?
Yeah, I'll just leave it at 1-0.
Yeah.
I've actually got a nice feeling about this. I'm going to go 3-0.
3-0. Wow. No strikers, and we're going to win 3-0. Very good.
To be frank, mate, it's not like a high proportion of our goals were scored by our centre.
No,
exactly.
True.
Exactly.
So I'm not worried about that necessarily. Whether we get the same joined up, sort of thinking as a Kai Havertz gives you is another question.
Yes,
but
exactly.
I'm not so. The man's finishing has not been phenomenal.
We're not going to miss the finishing. We'll miss everything else.
Just beat Man City 5-1 with Kai Havertz putting one chance, blaring wide from nowhere. So yeah, I'm all right.
Okay, you've made me really think my score. I'm going real positive, 2-0. So there we go. 2-0. So yeah, that should be
going
it.
to score now, aren't they? And I should take Raya out my dream team because we've all gone with a clean sheet.
I think we've all just gone a little bit insane. I think I've noticed, Jamie, in the pods, anything after 60 minutes, you just go off on one and you lose it. I need to maybe take a note for future. So look, thank you guys for joining me today. It's been, I think we're ending on a fun note considering the shite that we've had to talk about and deal with. So thank you for that, guys.
Thank you, Tabs.
Have we managed 80 minutes when there's been no games played and we're playing Leicester at the weekend? This is bloody ridiculous.
This is football. It's inherently
I blame the rugby chat. So there we go. So look, you can follow us on Blue Sky and Threads if you want a bit of baiting, especially all you Liverpool fans. I love to chat. Next show will be after Leicester, and then pre-West Ham next week. So look, if you made it this far without a game to talk about, thank you, well done. And I just want to leave you with this one stat before we leave. So Domino's Pizza have sold almost 79 million pizzas since Tottenham last won a trophy. Until the next time, come on you Gunners.